Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
You know what happened to me?
What? What happened to you?
Something fell on me.
What? What, just now?
The sky fell on me.
Oh, man.
Did you see it yet?
Well,
Skyfall.
Yes.
Yes, you did see it?
Well, technically, in the future.
I did see it in the past.
Tell me about it.
is great.
Was it?
Yeah.
I
It really
expected.
was.
I expected it. I will expected it to be. Where does it? How do you rank it in the nearly 24 other Bond films?
Gosh, I have such a hard time ranking the Bond films. I think the only way I could effectively do that is if I sat down and watched them all back to back, because I have such a hard time with them trying to remember which one was which. It's like, who is he trying to defeat in this one? What was the point? They there comes a point when they just kind of blend together a little bit.
Yeah, I
think between all of Daniel Craig's films, I think I need to let it sit with me for a little bit. It's definitely up there with Casino Royale. Like, these two are, I think, just really great. Definitely one of the top Bond films, I would say. It's just a solid story, really interesting character development, a lot of stuff they do with it that I really like. And I think the villain's pretty creepy. He's a creepy dude. We already knew that from No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, I know. Javier Bardem. Javier Bardem. Javier Bardem. How's that?
You sound like you are a drunk American pretending he's from Spain.
Javier Bardem. That great movie with Javier Bardem starring in it. That's it. That's what I'm supposed to do. I am double over excited. This is one of the things I love so much about Bond movies is they always come out right around my birthday. And it's birthday month.
That's right.
I know you're excited about that.
Birthday plans coming up.
It's the big birthday plans. And this is a, gosh, I love this Daniel Craig guy. I love that he's my Bond. He is my favorite Bond. I'm out. I said it. I'm out. Daniel Craig is my favorite Bond. He is the best Bond. And Dad, I'm sorry. He's better than Sean Connery.
You know whose camp you're in, though?
Oh, what?
You're in Roger Moore's camp. He came out and said the same thing.
Yeah. You know what? I love me some Roger Moore. Moonraker was one of my very favorites. I love some Moonraker. Are you kidding?
That's right.
And if Roger Moore, you know what? There's a worse camp to be in, Andy Nelson. Are you telling me you don't feel this way?
Hey, I agree. I think he's fantastic.
But is he the best Bond for you?
At this point, I would probably say yes.
That's it. We now have a platform. The movies we like platform.
You, me, and Roger Moore.
The three of us against the world. No. It's not even that way. I mean, it seems like I wish we had found some. I don't know who thinks that Daniel Craig isn't a fantastic top of the heap. They did a great job getting this guy, and man, does he know how to take a hit.
And I guess he's signed on already for 2 more after this one.
Yeah, because he knows, and he's. I think he is. I think he is a wonderful. He is just a wonderful male actor to watch. And not just in the James Bond role, but I absolutely loved him in Dragon Tattoo, and I think he played a very different kind of character in that movie, and I think he did a great job with that too. So I think he knows which side of the what's the thing where the bread is buttered. He knows where his bread is buttered, which side the butter that he will eat has been breaded.
I don't know that one.
So I am very excited to see this movie. So I will see it and love it. So that's what I got.
You definitely will.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't believe you dropped this on me. I was not even ready to talk.
Straw Dogs in it. It's got some disaster movie stuff in it. It's kind of got all sorts of stuff in it that really I wasn't expecting, and I quite enjoyed it.
Give me your take on Adele. However, are you?
Well, I loved it. I mean, it worked really well for the whole opening title sequence. I had no problem at all with it. The song was great. I really liked it.
The title sequence was on par with the great Bond titles of the past.
Well, it was interesting. It was more of him than I remember. It all felt like less. There's definitely a lot of art in it. but it also just felt like a lot of shots of Daniel Craig shooting at stuff, and it felt a little more grounded than some in the past, but then it still had some stuff where you'd like go through a bullet hole and you'd be seeing these swirling red ribbons of blood flowing through the sky, and it was it was good. I really enjoyed it.
How does I feel like I'm going to be asking you to give it away, and I don't necessarily want to do that, but there is I remember so clearly the Casino Royale parkour scene, the way that movie opens, blew me away. It was exactly the way that movie needed to open. It was exactly the way we needed to meet this James Bond. It was dirty and gritty and fast and fantastic. Do we have that level of kind of frenetic action, or is it more sort of big budget, big explosion action? Are there good fights? I guess chasing
there's
and
definitely
fighting? Good
fights. And the opening with this one really has, I think, one of the most solid big fight sequences. It's I don't know if I'd say it's on par, but it definitely has a lot of great stuff going on in it.
All right. That's enough. Fine.
Yep.
You've done your duty.
Yeah.
Made me want it badly.
You'll enjoy it.
I'm gonna call you right after.
All right, let me know.
What else do you have on tap for the week?
Well, I started watching American Horror Story.
Really?
Yeah.
I have not.
Great show. I'm only 3 episodes in, but really interesting concept for a TV show.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
I love it.
Give me the short and skinny. Why is this a good show?
It's a horror film, basically. And the way that it was structured is the entire first season is one story. And what they are doing with the second season, which is running now, they took the same cast and they transplanted the cast into a totally different story. It's another horror story. This first story is about a family who moves, they're dealing with a lot of loss and betrayal. They move from Boston to LA, and they move into this house that is been plagued by murders for nearly 100 years, and start dealing with all these horror elements going on in the house. Now they've taken that entire cast and they put them into an insane asylum, and now you have the same actors but in totally different roles, all in a totally different story. And I think it's a great idea. But what they have going right now in this first story, I mean, they've got some really beautifully creepy things going on, and amazing characters that you just don't see. Like Jessica Lange's character is just, she says things that come out of her mouth, and it really surprises me. And it's just, you hear things like that, and it's like, God, that's the sort of role that an actor waits for. It's just great stuff.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. My sister-in-law recommended this, and I'll tell you, I was distracted by Walking Dead at the time, and I think I just didn't have the space to bring it into my life. But you're saying it's worth it.
Definitely check it out. Yep.
Okay. All right. I'll check it out. Where are you? Speaking of The Walking Dead and Rick and his merry band of zombie hunters.
I finished season 2. I'm waiting until season 3 is available on Netflix.
So you're not in prison.
I'm not. I've seen the prison, the last shot of season 2, but
that's this is what I was afraid of, because I desperately would like to talk to you about it, and so
I'm waiting for that gift card.
yeah. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure that that's where we were.
Yep.
It's fantastic, and I'll tell you, people may disagree. This is season 3. This is the best season so far.
Well,
Did you
good.
Look at me? I'm taking a stand everywhere, left and right, willy-nilly.
Sure are.
Taking a stand. Okay. So we should talk about this. First of all, where can people find you? Good, Andrew.
People can find me on Twitter at Soda Creek Film, or on Facebook at Soda Creek Film, and they can find me at rashpixel.tv.
Yes, you can, and you should go there. And we're going to be talking about. You can find me there. I'm at Pete Wright on the Twitter, and at rashpixel.tv you can find me. You can also find me on Facebook, our Movies We Like Facebook page. which is just simply facebook.com/movies we like. I would also say, if you are so inclined, that when you get to the page, you should look at the movie we're going to talk about tonight. If you haven't seen it, it's called Drive, and it's starring Ryan Gosling. And right there on the page, right there, you can find the instant video link to Amazon.com or to pick up the Blu-ray. And we invite you to do that. You should do that if you haven't seen the movie. This is a way you can both see the movie, love the movie like us, and you can send us a few pennies to help us support hosting and the work that we do on the site and the show. So we desperately, it's not the word I was looking for, but probably the word that's appropriate. We definitely appreciate your support. So thank you. Now, let's talk about this movie. I had not seen the movie. You said you got to see the movie. I saw the movie.
And I said you had to see this movie like early in the year when we did our Oscar picks. I picked this as the film that I felt was most neglected for Oscar love. I felt that this was a snub. It should have gotten some more favor, and definitely I felt it was worthy of a Best Picture nod. So
I didn't believe you. I
guess not.
God, that's the last time I make that mistake. Because this was a great film.
Yeah, you didn't really see it coming, did you?
Totally didn't see it coming. First of all, this Ryan Gosling. This is we should say, in terms of context, Drive is the fourth and final episode of this run of our great car chases films. We acknowledge that there are many great car chases, but this one is yet another one that has a different take on executing car chases, and in particular on filming car chases, and how the cars are portrayed in support of character. And I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts on that specific issue and question. But we recognize that we're gonna have to come back to car chases down the road, because there are way too many of them that we had a hard time selecting. But this one, I think, is just done a little bit differently. So tell me what you love about the cars in Drive.
I think what I love the most is that you really feel that you're right there with Driver, as this character is called, since credited, since he's never named in the film. How you feel so in the moment with him. For example, the first car chase that he's in the first robbery that he helps these guys execute as their driver, the whole thing is done in the car with him. We see it all from basically the inside the car perspective, which really makes it feel like you're on this car chase with him. And it's such a great way to just get you into this world that he's in. Likewise, in the later car chases, it's mainly the big one after the botched pawn shop robbery. Just the way that the cars are moving around the streets and everything is it's fascinating, and it really pulls you in. And watching how he's a character who plays a stunt driver by day, and then he kind of helps these criminals at night. And the way that he maneuvers the car, you get a sense that this is a guy who knows how to drive. And when he pulls that 270 spin, like he spins the car around into reverse, because he sees this turn coming up, and he knows his only way that he's going to make it around the curve is to pull this do it from behind, or going backward, and then he does a 270 spin, pulling himself out of it into the other direction, and seeing the other car crash. It's just, I mean, it's amazing. It really is just amazing the way they do that.
I think that that in particular blew me away. But I started the blowing away for me started in that very first sequence, and it actually wasn't about the driving in particular, because the driving I thought was good. And you're right, Driver ends up being you through his behavior and his action and his sort of aptitude behind the wheel, you get the sense of kind of who he is. And you hear him deliver his code, which is, I'll give you 5 minutes on site, I'm all yours for 5 minutes, but anything after that and I leave you behind, kind of a thing.
Right.
But But what I found really affecting is the cinematography, I think, by Newton Thomas Sigel. I found that I was amazed by just how much setting I was able to get by the way of what was going on outside the car, in spite of being sort of constantly obstructed. Right? Because we were in the car, there was always something obstructing our view. It was usually either the camera was right on Gosling's face, and so what we're seeing around him comes in the form of these sort of 1/8 of a shot or of a frame, kind of over the shoulder lights passing, or looking out the front windshield and we've got the rearview mirror kind of obstructing our view, or they have this wonderful kind of low cross angle looking up from the passenger seat, or sort of from the floor in front of the passenger seat at Gosling, so you can kind of see what's going on in the back seat as well, and the lights and helicopter lights that are kind of going over the car. And between these angles, you are given such an amazing sense of atmosphere that I don't remember having experienced. I think that was the thing for me, the way they actually used the camera inside the car in such a novel way that I didn't get. And it, again, to me, it shows that evolution of the car chase from, 30 years prior with Bullitt to French Connection to Ronin to Drive. I mean, there is just such a sophistication that comes from the storytelling of the camera work in this film that just blew me away.
Yeah. And some of that, I think, is, I mean, we've been following these car chases now from 68 through 2011, and camera size has changed. They've been able to make them smaller, faster, easier to fit into tight spots, lighter. There's just so much changing with the nature of cameras themselves. This film was all digital. None of our other ones, they were all shot on film. And going all the way back to Bullitt, that was a very slow film. It required a lot of light for that footage that they shot at night. The Arri Alexa with this, I mean, it made it that much easier for them to put the camera into those positions.
Yeah, boy, you can really feel it. And so I talk more about the Arri Alexa camera.
It's it's a great digital camera that there's a good number of very quality digital cameras that they have out there right now, and the Alexa is definitely one of them. It's an Arri, and Arri's been making cameras for a very long time, but I mean, the body of it is so small. I mean, it looks like what basically like you would have had in the 80s as a VHS video camera. It's just something that you could almost just throw on your shoulder. Obviously, it's a little more high end than that. It actually has lenses that you can change and everything, but it's mobile. It's so much more mobile than anything else that any of those other guys had been able to use. And because of that, you could capture shots done in these like low angles much easier. You didn't have to worry so much if, when you're shooting inside the car, if at night, if the footage out behind the doors was going to be completely black because it was just too dark outside. They can capture quite a bit of depth in these in how these cameras capture the footage, and then they can go in post and they can manipulate it, and they can bring, okay, let's pull all the stuff outside the window, let's pull it up a little bit, and they can really kind of tweak the image much more easily to get specifically what they want out of it.
It is, I believe it's a 4K, right? It's super big, and this is the answer to the Red, right? The Red one, right?
It
shoots ProRes. It shoots at 2880 by 2160, as opposed to other like the Sony Cine Alta, which is a straight up 1920 by 1080. I mean, it right. Shoots very, very big. So as you say, you have a lot of control over the finished image, particularly when you're down resing it to HD.
Right.
but it's this was the first I had heard of this camera, actually, because all of my circles are all red, for they're all nerds, and that seems to be nerd chic. So I never, or the Cine Alta. So this was it's amazing. I mean, it looks like an amazing little camera.
Well, and you look at the list of films that have used the Arri Alexa. I mean, it really came out in 2010, and it was virtually all TV projects. 2011 is when it really took off. I mean, Hugo, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, Anonymous, Game of Thrones, Melancholia, The Three Musketeers, Doctor Who, Sherlock, this film. The list goes on and on, the number of films. And then you look at 2012, The Avengers, Life of Pi, Skyfall was shot with this, World War Z, Argo. It's becoming so fluid and easy to shoot with, and you can really, I mean, these cameras are really, it really is kind of showing the end of film, I think.
Yes. Showing Gangster Squad, Argo. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Abraham Lincoln Vampire. Oh, you had me at Vampire Hunter. Okay, so the film, this was done on the Alexa, and I find that really interesting, but we're going to go ahead and move on, because I think there are those who may be finished nerding out on resolution. So anyhow, this is I think you make a really good point that so much of the evolution of filming these sequences is enabled by size and flexibility of the media, and this is a great example of that.
Yeah.
Okay, what else do you love about these sequences?
Well, I mean, they just work well in the film. I mean, and I think a lot of it boils down to the nature that this character is a stunt driver. And you see that the way he drives and everything, he always has kind of that kind of cool, calm expression on his face. He's not Gene Hackman, like cursing and swearing as he's chasing a train, right? He's not, he doesn't even quite have like the nervous looks that you get on De Niro's face in Ronin. He really is he's calm, he's focused, and it's like he's doing his job. And I find that really fascinating.
You know what? I think one of the most telling scenes in the film is, once you've seen how well he drives, and then you see him in the grocery store. And he's wandering the grocery store, and there's this extremely long and painful shot on him as he is walking aisle after aisle after aisle, and he's listening to his, who we find out is his neighbor, talking to her son in the other aisle. But you can see that he is not doing well in the grocery store. And I find myself sort of thinking about him as this character, thinking, wow, I think it's so appealing that he is unapologetically outstanding at only one thing in his life, and that is driving these cars.
Yeah.
Like, that's all he's good at. And what we see in the grocery store is such a great example, because he's not even good at living. The guy can hardly feed himself.
Right.
Like, he doesn't know what to do in this very sort of simple kind of day-to-day experience of acquiring food for the home, that we're given this sort of view around the edge that lets us fill in kind of who he is as a character, and that makes him even more interesting, I think.
Yeah, he is very much defined by what he's called in the film, the driver. Mm-hmm. That is essentially who he is, and there's I don't want to say there's not much more than that. Obviously, there's a whole character there, and a very fascinating character. But I mean, you know what I mean? It's like he is so defined by his driving that it becomes the character, and it makes for a really interesting guy. I mean, he can hardly sleep at night. he's, he goes home, he's not very inclined to sleep. He would rather just either work on car parts or get back in his car and just kind of drive around.
Yeah, I think it's funny because you're thinking about kind of what a guy who was good at driving might do, and there is he has found, I think, the only two things that really satisfy his ability to drive the way he drives, because he would not be a good limo driver, right? I mean, he wouldn't be be a good taxi driver,
quite a ride.
right? Because his skill set is really very specific. It's about doing things with cars that are questionably not necessarily designed to do, they're questionably designed to do those things, right?
Right.
And what I love about this, and this is the thing where I think I had trouble, researching the film, because so many people, were saying that the our hero isn't a hero. There's like no substance to him. All we see is Driver, for those who weren't crazy about Gosling's portrayal of Driver. And what I like so much about Driver is that we see when he is tested, and when he's tested by this person who comes into his life that he has some affinity for, and he is put in a position where he has to defend the honor of this little boy and his mother through the course of his actions. We see that he is really incapable of doing that stuff smoothly, right? You see the way he kind of squeezes his fists, and the sort of the nuance of the way he flexes his jaw muscle, and you see that he is, just like he is struggling in the grocery store to feed himself, he's struggling because he doesn't know how to care so much about these people that he suddenly cares about. All he knows how to do is drive. But that tells us so much, and I think that's one of the things I like so much about Gosling's portrayal of this character. It tells us so much about who he is through what he is unable to do in this film. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah.
Is that even a thing? Did I just say anything that was meaningful at all?
No, you did. I think you're right. Sorry, I was putting a cough drop in my mouth. I wasn't ready for you to finish. But yeah, I mean, well, that's what makes him so interesting. And when he does get into this relationship, and it's an interesting relationship, and we should talk about that too, because it's clearly, I mean, before the elevator scene, it's clearly one where there seems to be that kind of connection, but obviously there's a line there and they can't cross it.
Right.
But it's interesting watching him try to figure out like how to navigate that relationship, because he obviously isn't somebody who's ever really been in a relationship with a woman, particularly with a child. But I find it so fascinating how he does connect with the kid in a way that almost makes more sense than the father.
Well, because he is, in all other respects, a child, sort of developmentally.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. Go on.
But he's also very, very smartly, like when the father is in the parking garage and gets beaten up, and the son sees it, and the father's like calling to the kid, "It's okay, come on over," all that stuff. He's much more in tune with the responsibilities of what a father should be doing, and he goes and picks the kid up and takes him away from it, and it's nice to see that he is in touch with that aspect of those responsibilities.
Well, and I think though, just as his relationship with the car, with the cars, I sort of feel like his relationship with the cars is similar to his relationship with the boy. Like, he knows how to work the cars because he knows he has this sort of intuitive sense of what the cars are capable of, and he knows how to relate to the boy because he is a boy, in those very much those similar respects, and knows how he would want to be treated.
Yeah. Right.
And maybe that's some backstory that we don't know. I mean, maybe that's that's sort of how I was feeling as I was reading this, or as I was watching this, is that he is what he sees in that little boy is very much what he sees in himself, and why he's so able to or what sort of gave him this ability to escape and not relate to other grown-ups is because he's still so much a child because of whatever damage happened to him. But he is this boy.
Yeah, definitely. In a very violent world, and one that he kind of it seems to ignore. The world of criminals and everything. It's almost like he's got his code. He does his job. He doesn't pay attention to the fact that they're robbing banks or whatever it is that they're doing, whatever crimes they're committing. Just like he doesn't really care about what's going on set. All he wants to do is he wants to go do his stunt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a fascinating character. Absolutely fascinating.
Now, what is going on around him? We talk about the crime going on around him, and the crime is really sort of orchestrated by a number of key people. Bryan Cranston, boy, he's great.
Yeah, boy, he's the unlucky car shop owner.
Yeah, things don't end up playing out well for him in the end.
They really don't. Oh, yeah, but he's great, and boy, I tell you, ever since Breaking Bad, Bryan Cranston just seems to be everywhere, which is fantastic. I think he's wonderful, and I love seeing him in everything. I mean, he was just in Argo. He's everywhere.
Yeah. No, he got Morgan Freeman.
He did.
I mean, here he was. He was discovered. He's discovered a terrific actor who became wildly popular at the start of his second half.
That's right. He's great.
More power to him. He's great to watch. Now he orchestrates kind of the getaway relationship for Driver, and also pimps him out to the movies. As far as I'm reading that, or as I'm watching.
Right. He's kind of, I guess you could say, his agent.
He's his agent. Right. That's a good way to put it.
I mean, it doesn't sound like his deals are necessarily very fair, but it doesn't sound like Driver cares all that much. He got that kind of knowing grin that he gives him when he's like, oh, of course I get 50% of it.
Right.
I don't know of any agent who gets 50% of their actors' fees. So he definitely is making out.
I have been meaning to talk to you about our relationship.
He's a fascinating character. He's orchestrating the stunt work, and he's orchestrating the crime work, and he ends up. I guess you could say he's trying to find a way to get clear of maybe both of those worlds by having Driver, or by getting money from Bernie, played by Albert Brooks, to get a race car so that Driver can race and through that find a way to kind of get out of this world that they're in.
Yeah, and there is that is a whole sort of thread that I really love, and so help me with it, because I think I haven't seen this movie as much as often as you have. So, but what I love about that whole thread is that there is this car, this race car. They're gonna trick it out. They're gonna put Driver behind the wheel because he is the found the holy son of driving returned, reborn, and they're gonna go win some big money races, and they're gonna do it legitimately. And what I love about this relationship is that it brings all of the criminal centers together. Albert Brooks, it brings Bryan Cranston and Driver together in this whole new way, in a way that legitimizes all of the crime that they have been doing in the past. Right? They earned all this terrible money. They now got the money from crime. They're putting it into this car, and they're going to turn their lives around. And then they just can't do it. They just can't get it all the way there.
Well, and it's not that it's any fault of their own, really. I mean, in relation to this race car, it really boils down to Nino, right? Ron Perlman's character.
Right. I would say, before we talk specifically about Nino, is that just that cosmically, it seems like that relationship to this new car, to this new opportunity, is just another example of sort of how they can't fight the culture, because there's always going to be a Nino.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I kept sort of feeling like for him,
absolutely.
There's always a Nino.
It's like Godfather. It's just like, just when you think you get out, they pull you back in.
That's right.
You can't get out. It's become your mindset. It's become your life. You're always anytime you try breaking free from that sort of world, you don't know how to live outside of it. You're always going to find your way back into it,
Right.
or it will find you. And yeah, so the whole thing, I mean, it's I guess you could say it's a little convenient that Driver's neighbor, Irene, her husband, who just is released from prison, Standard, happens to owe a lot of money to Nino's people, and is set up on this mission to rob a pawn shop in order to steal all this money. But of course, Nino has it all set up where they're going to kill this guy because he wants to steal the money because it's really from the organization back east, and it's kind of a complicated plot element there. But it's layers of these criminals doing different acts of crime that all somehow end up getting tied together because on the off chance that Standard, his neighbor, is Driver, who drives cars, and he says that he'll drive for him. And just because of that instant of kindness, because he's kind of fallen for Irene, he ends up tied into this whole thing. And while he's on the good side of Bernie and the race car, all of a sudden now, because of everything that goes wrong, he's on the bad side of Nino. And by default, he's now also on the bad side of Bernie.
And ends up having, and that is that sort of next level of sort of testing his character, this character that is sort of emerging out of the elements that are being thrown at him. And then it gets violent.
It gets really violent.
And it gets really violent fast.
This was a film my wife watched with me, and she really loved it, but she had a really hard time watching any of those scenes because every time there's a violent act on screen, it is 10 times what you would expect it to be.
Yeah, and I'm so the one obviously that really stands out to me is not even the elevator scene, it's the shotgun scene after the initial shoot when Standard is shot. He's coming out of the pawn shop, right? And he's, we think that things have gone okay. There is some nice pacing and some nice crazy tension that is built up, but his, the assistant woman with the bag has come out, and she throws the bag in the back of the car, and now they wait, and they do this slow pull on their eyes over the dashboard, and then they cut back and forth between the dashboard and the doors.
And you hear the clock, his watch ticking away.
Right, you hear the watch ticking away, and you think, okay, well, now the guy's going to come out, and there will probably be some gunshots, but then the chase will happen. Well, it turns out Standard comes out of the pawn shop, and he's shot in the neck, and then a lot more, and he falls, and then there's another car. Turns out there was another car there to hold them up. And there's a chase scene. One of the weirdest chase scenes because it's a modest chase scene with one of the coolest endings, right?
Yeah,
it's that 270, and what I love even more than just the fact that he executes this 270 to go around this hairpin turn is the way they film the crash of the whatever it was Buick thing behind him.
Right.
With him in the frame, looking through the him in focus, looking at what's going on behind him,
right in the rearview mirror, and you see Christina Hendricks, who played Blanche, in the back seat just watching this car accident behind them, and they never
go back to establish what was happening, and that's the end of the sequence. That's the end of the chase. It's like you see the car. I think it even ends. Check me on it, but I think it ends with the other car like in the air.
Gosh, I can't remember, but you could be right.
It is an amazingly surprisingly well architected sequence, and I really enjoyed watching that. But then back to this whole thing of violence, this surprising violence comes as Christina Hendricks and Gosling are holed up in this hotel room to try and find some center on what went wrong with the heist, and they are tracked down by the thugs. The thugs find them with a shotgun. The thugs with a shotgun find them. And then they use the shotgun on poor Christina's, really mostly the side of her head.
Yeah.
And boy, do they get all of that.
Yes, they do.
Did that not, was that a little, given the context of the film, was that overboard for you?
It wasn't. It's a story. I have a hard time. I mean, you really gotta, I don't know. I mean, in a crime film, we're dealing with, I mean, yes, there's car chase and all that stuff, but I don't know. It's the world of crime, and I don't think it's necessarily out of place. And I don't want to say it's not out of place just because it's a crime film, but to a certain extent, I guess that is what I'm saying, because the nature of crime tends to fall to violence. And I think it speaks true of kind of the nature of that world.
I think that's in many ways what I liked actually so much about it. And I think I'm usually the one on the more conservative end, which of between the two of us in terms of the use of violence, particularly violence and towards children. But in this movie, it didn't. I found I really I thought it was great. It was it was a great and jarring execution, and I thought that it really we sort of needed it to push the driver to that next stage of anxiety. Right, because
and also, like, up to this point, the film has had kind of this dream quality to it. Like, even the music has that kind of like techno dream feel going on. Everything is kind of, it's almost like Driver is like half asleep through the film. Like he kind of has this look and this expression, like he's driving, but it's almost like he's on autopilot for that first part. And this is that moment that really does kind of snap him out and bring him into, I guess you could say, the real world, and really having to start making some hard decisions.
Yes. I think that's exactly it. It is
like crushing someone's skull with his foot.
That and then we have that, which I thought was like a ballet, right? It was a ballet of violence in the elevator. I think what was so great about that was the again, to talk about this sort of the open space versus compression. When you have them having this, they're sort of in the hallway and they're having this conversation that is sort of coming to terms with their relationship, and then the elevator door opens and the hitman's in there.
Yeah, right.
Oh, sorry, wrong floor. So they all three get in the elevator now, and all at once, after this wonderful, again, talk about dreamlike. I mean, that whole elevator sequence is sort of a mini montage of the entire film. Where he's kissing her and then turns around and proceeds to bootsecute. He bootsecutes the hitman.
Yeah.
It shows sort of how quickly he's able to find his sea legs in this hyper violent kind of a world.
Well, and it really makes you wonder, like, how deep that is in Driver, or if it's always just kind of been subtly floating under there. It's just he never really is in a position to be violent because it comes so easily to him, and it doesn't affect him at all. It's kind of disturbing how he takes it. It's almost like working in film as a stunt driver has kind of made him think that it's almost like everything is just stunts,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of interesting and gruesome.
That is the truth. Let's see. Gosh, the movie did well. Is there anything else?
Hold on.
So let's talk more about this.
Since we've been talking about violence,
yeah,
I'd like to talk about Albert Brooks for a little bit.
Yeah, we got to talk about the way he
because Albert Brooks is one of those amazing actors who has done some amazing films, usually much funnier, this one actually is pretty funny. But I don't recall ever having a character this dark. I mean, maybe he gets close to it in Out of Sight, but that one is definitely not a violent character. And I don't know. I think he's even said this is his first film where he's actually ever killed anybody. Yeah,
and kills a lot of or several people, and in really different ways.
Yeah, the first one in the restaurant is particularly painful to watch and gruesome because it's just so.
It's utilitarian.
It's just sudden and awful.
He stabs. What's his name?
Well,
the assistant, the assistant mafia hitman assistant, stabs him in the eye with a fork, and then proceeds to give him a rather extensive tracheotomy with a steak knife.
Yeah,
and it's really gruesome, but also, I say utilitarian for a reason. I mean, it really is. He is a guy who has suddenly discovered that he has a checklist. And he now has to, he is now a guy who's going to finish his checklist. And it starts with removing this assistant hitman. And then moving on to the next person on the list.
Right. He's got to clean up the mess.
He's cleaning up the mess. And and so then he moves I think the one that I found really stunning was the Bryan Cranston assassination, which he did with. It's
horribly tragic.
Yeah, it is tragic because you can see the reluctance kind of in the relationship that he doesn't want to do it, and that he really, that where we were talking about sort of the end of the thread of that race car, where you actually get Albert Brooks kind of coming to terms with, I was excited about this.
Yeah,
I was going to be here too, and it didn't play out that way. He realized he was having his Godfather 3 moment, and that he was now taking ownership of it. And so the assassination itself, he actually bleeds Bryan Cranston out.
And it's done in, like you had said, how reluctant he was, but it's amazing how
fast.
It's fast, but it's also how it's almost like through the whole thing, he still is maintaining their friendship. And it's just a work related thing that he has to do, but he does it in, like, from his perspective, like the most humane way. He's like, it's done. He's just so gentle about it. It's horrifyingly creepy.
Yes, horrifyingly creepy. And then I think it is made even more creepy when he returns back to his apartment, his house, wherever, and he puts the blade back in the beautiful blade box.
his box of
blades, where you that sort of gives you a little bit of punctuation on that sequence, where you actually realize that what was going on screen is really much more central to his character and how he got to where he is than we were led to believe, I think.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, because they said that he says, he had produced movies in his past, but you get a sense that came after probably a lot of time in the mafia type of world, the gang or mafia world. He kind of ended up producing some movies, kind of like, John Travolta and Get Shorty,
right?
But was very easily moved back out of that into more of this violent world that he's from.
Right. Now, he was nominated for a bunch of awards all over the place for this movie.
Except for an Oscar.
What do you think about that?
He was one of my my two snubs. Him and Patton Oswalt from Young Adult, I felt, were two really great supporting actor characters, or supporting actor roles that really probably deserved Oscar nominations. I really felt that Albert Brooks was haunting and just creepy and very different in this film, and I felt that he would have been a perfect candidate for a supporting actor nomination. I was kind of surprised that he didn't get it.
Yeah, in hindsight, boy, I am too. This was a terrific film for him, and this is coming from a guy who really loved Albert Brooks in Defending Your Life. It's one of my all-time favorite Albert Brooks films.
Which one?
Defending Your Life.
Oh, right.
Totally different Albert Brooks. I loved that movie.
I need to see that one again.
Meryl Streep, Albert Brooks, come on. Where he's chasing the bus at the end. Forget it. So, okay. Love this movie. Great movie. Albert Brooks did a great job. Ryan Gosling. I want to say about Ryan Gosling again. I have not seen a lot of Ryan Gosling films. And until this film, my impression of Ryan Gosling was the Mickey Mouse Club.
That's
so
funny.
the reason, I think largely there are two reasons I did not see this film when it came out. The first is Ryan Gosling was in it. And the second is that weird 1980s font.
Oh, really?
The pink font.
The kind of the cursive font for the poster.
The script poster font, the credit font. It felt like I was watching kind of the beginning of like Less Than Zero or something. And so I thought, well, it's going to be a period piece. This is the same
which is interesting because they really did. Nicolas Winding Refn, the director, really was going for that 80s vibe with this film. He really wanted it to have a whole atmosphere of that, not necessarily placing it in the 80s itself. He still kept it present day, but he just liked that vibe.
Yeah, and to me, like the 80s is the new 70s, right? I mean, there's nothing really to be proud of. I mean, we are children of the 80s. I don't know if you know this. 80s are kind of annoying now.
Yeah, well, they have their magic, I guess, but yeah, mostly not.
So I have popped a collar with the best of them, and those days are gone. That's all I'm saying. But I want to say that for this movie, as we kind of get toward the wrapping up part, this movie I find brings out the same sort of challenge, of sort of intellectual challenge to me as I'm watching this movie, as a viewer of this movie, that I got when I watched Brick. That I felt like this is an example of a filmmaker and a cast that have come together to do something, deliver a story in a really unique way, and to take all of the obvious things, take this most obvious title, and make this movie about cars, not so much about racing cars, and not so much a Fast and the Furious, kind of in the age of Fast and the Furious, to do a driving movie with some dignity and some real story to it. And I was incredibly moved by this film, and I'm so glad you brought it back around, because it was absolutely worth watching. And I think Ryan Gosling, he has redeemed himself. He's not the child actor, and I want to go back and see some of his other stuff, because
you absolutely need to.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely need to see. Did you see Crazy Stupid Love?
No, I know. Whatever.
Did you see The Ides of March?
Nope.
Did you see Blue Valentine?
No. I know. Do you even want to do the show with me anymore?
I know. Lars and the Real Girl?
No, stop.
Oh,
You're just embarrassing me now.
We're gonna do a Ryan Gosling series on this show.
Oh, and the promises, they keep on coming.
We're gonna have to. He's a great actor.
He is a great actor. I have been properly schooled. I really enjoyed watching him in this movie, and I gosh, he's a Coen Brothers actor to me. No,
he could be. Yeah, I could see that.
Can you totally see that? I can totally see him in a Coen Brothers film. So anyway, your closing remarks on this film.
Well, we mentioned Ron Perlman, but we never really got back to him as an actor. Ron Perlman's just one of those guys. He's such a quirky looking guy that it's amazing that the parts that he gets, but he's so good. I just find him so fascinating, and I love watching him. And I think it was a great role for him, playing this kind of a Jewish gangster who wants to be a kind of a New York gangster, and it was really kind of funny. And I really loved him in this film, and I loved, even though he's Ron Perlman, he still had kind of a different feel, and I really enjoyed him in this.
I did too, and it's hard not to enjoy Ron Perlman, even in his hit run in Alien Resurrection.
That's right.
But I'll always, to me, he'll always be Beast in Beauty and the Beast, the series.
That's right. That was great. I love that.
Ah, Perlman.
So, I mean, it's a great film. we didn't talk numbers at all, did we?
No, we haven't talked numbers yet. So this movie, this is
I
one
see
that
that it
actually
cost
did.
$15 million to make, $38 million total budget. So it actually gave it quite a bit of money for the prints and advertising, quite a bit.
And it did fairly well.
Domestically, it made about $35 million. Internationally, about $31 million. So worldwide, I see about $66 million.
So that's not a bad performance for what is ultimately a sort of a small film.
It really was. I mean, $15 million to make it. It is a very, I mean, I hesitate saying independent because independent films are generally not quite that well funded. But it really is a small film. I mean, look at where we were with Ronin, $55 million for that film.
Right.
This is down to 15.
Right, and they pulled off a lot in this movie. This was fantastic.
Yeah.
I also, we have not mentioned the fact that this is another one that's based on a book, the book Drive by James Salas, and I have decided on that we need another list. Can you guess what the list is going to be, Andrew?
The books from which movies that we like have been adapted from?
Yes, sir. That would be a great list because I realize that I go through and I go download the books and I'm losing track. I need a list.
That's right. We'll have to throw another list on there.
There's another list. It's coming.
And it's a very well adapted screenplay by Hossein Amini, who's written some great scripts. And I think I haven't read the book, but just the movie has such a great vibe that I think he wrote a very good script.
Well, and we should talk about Hossein Amini just briefly. The only other films that I have seen of his, obviously Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yes.
Which was, again, terrific. I enjoy that. It's one that's aged really well for me. But the other was The Wings of the Dove.
Yeah, Wings of the Dove and Jude, like back in the mid-'90s, are two kind of adaptations that he wrote. And The Four Feathers, that came out in 2002. Some interesting adaptations that he wrote that I think some worked better than others, but he clearly knows how to write a good script. And he's actually tying it in a little bit to our series. Even more, he's writing the 47 Ronin movie that's coming out next year with Keanu Reeves.
Right. What do you know about that one? All I know is it's Keanu Reeves and 47 Ronin, but it's here, right?
Let's
Well, it was
see.
originally.
The
It looks like
outcast
it was
Kai, played by Keanu Reeves, joins a group of samurai led by Kuranosuke Oishi, who seeks vengeance on Lord Kira, who killed their master and banished the group. The samurai embark on a journey whose challenges would defeat most warriors.
It's Keanu Reeves and a whole bunch of Japanese people.
Yeah, it's going to feel like
that Tom Cruise,
The Last
one,
Samurai.
The Last Samurai. It was originally scheduled to be released on the 21st of 2012, postponed a whole year plus to December 25th, 2013.
Yeah.
Big one, $170 million projected budget.
Yeah.
Big.
So, yeah, Hossein Amini, there you go.
Well done. Okay. And then the last one, the first film that he's directing, looks like Two Faces of January, the first modest film that he's directing, writing and directing. Very much looking forward to that. Another adaptation of a novel by the same name.
Yeah, by
Viggo,
Patricia Highsmith.
Viggo Mortensen and Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one.
Looking forward to that. So I think, close it up. What else do you have? Because this is, again, thank you for making this happen. This is great.
It's great. It's a fascinating film that really paces itself well. It has this beautiful feel all the way through. The production design is gorgeous. The stunts are great. The costume, I mean, his jacket, I want my own scorpion jacket. Just everything about it works really well. The violence is really violent. It's just, it's one of those really interesting films that just really sticks with you. It obviously did well. Nicolas he walked home with the Best Director prize at Cannes. And I mean, the film got a standing ovation at Cannes. It's a fantastic film that is just beautiful and unlike a lot of other car chase movies on our list, really.
It really is. It is a very different film. Certainly different from what I was expecting. It wraps up, as we said, it wraps up our car chase film series, and we are kicking into a whole new thing.
That's right.
We're gonna do 3 of our favorite Luc Besson films.
That's right. This one's a series that you wanted to do, and I think it's going to be a fun one. It'll be 3 interesting films to look at again.
I love the way you say that. I love the way you say that. Was great. No, okay, really, no. This was a thing you wanted to do. So, subtextually speaking, it's not my fault. That's what I just heard. That's
no. He's got some great stuff.
You just said bring your A game, Pete, because I will bring nothing.
Oh man!
Oh come on! We've got 3 movies that I'm very much looking forward to talking about. So we're gonna. I don't know. Are we gonna say it? Or
no.
For a surprise. There's gonna be a surprise.
It'll be a surprise.
All right. So that's it. I got nothing else.
Oh, and happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, there's that. There's a little detail. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, Andrew.
Yes.
Is there any sort of a Thanksgiving theme song we need to sing or play out?
How's that Adam Sandler Thanksgiving song go? I don't know. That's the only thing I like of Adam Sandler. Thanksgiving. I don't know. And my voice is horrible right now, so we're not gonna try.
Thanksgiving. Good night, Andy.
We wanted to take a moment to thank you for your continued support over the years. It's hard to believe that we have been having weekly, in-depth discussions about movies since 2011.
That's right, 12 years and counting. Producing this show is a labor of love for us, but it does require a lot of time and effort each week.
If you enjoy our podcast and would love to help keep it going, there are some easy ways you can show your support. One is by using our Originals page to shop for the original source material that movies we've discussed were based on.
That's right. In Season 1 alone, we covered 13 films adapted from books or plays, from Charlie Kaufman's adaptation to David Fincher adaptations like Fight Club.
In Season 2, we covered even more, like Powell and Pressburger's The Red Shoes and The African Queen from our series about legendary cinematographer Jack Cardiff.
We can't forget about the 4 Jason Bourne movies we talked about. Love those movies. Well, the original trilogy, at least.
For our Richard D. Zanuck series, we did Jaws, Rush, Big Fish, and more. And for our horror series, we talked about John Carpenter's The Thing, which was adapted from Who Goes There?
We did our first great car chase series with movies like Bullet, The French Connection, and Drive. And for the holidays, we did Preston Sturgis's Christmas in July.
We had a great John Huston series with adaptations like The Maltese Falcon and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
And for our baseball series, Moneyball with Brad Pitt. Have I told you lately how much I love that movie?
Yeah, I think you have. Plus our Magician series and Heist film series had adaptations as well.
Tons of page-to-screen gems. Listeners can find the details and links to the original material at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play, or movie you buy through our links helps support the show, and it's no extra cost to you.
So dive in and get your next read today. thenextreel.com/originals has all the films adapted from other sources that not only we have covered, but all of the shows on the Next Reel family of podcasts. Check it out and get reading.
Support the show and build your reading list. It's a win-win. Head to thenextreel.com/originals.